Tanya for the 26th of Adar is in Perek Lamed Zayin, chapter 37, on Daf Mem Ches, or on page 174. It's about 6 lines from the bottom. We're learning that every neshama, every nefesh, every animal soul in every Jew is a spark of one of the 600,000 general neshamas that break down, that each one of them breaks down into 600,000 and so on, so that every neshama of every Jew is responsible for one part, one chelik of the physical world. And through the physical things that a person uses that are necessary for his animal soul, eating, drinking, and so on, through those things he elevates his portion of the world. And this portion can become very complicated. As the Rambam says that somebody once built a big palace, and many years later, Aid, a chassid, he calls him, a tzaddik, was traveling, and it was raining, and he needed a place to stay for a while. So he stayed in the doorway or in the courtyard of that palace, and that was the reason for which the palace was built in the first place. So when a person today, for example, is doing a mitzvah, and in order to do the mitzvah he has to have a coat, and the coat is made out of wool. So the farmer in New Zealand who raises the sheep that makes the wool that were sold to a factory in Korea, and the factory in Korea put together the material, and then the material was sold to somebody in France, and in France they put together the coat, and this was sold by a store in Manhattan. All of that, the factory and the farm and the farmer and the store, all of it is elevated, and all of it is justified and becomes valid because the Jew wearing the coat is going to do a mitzvah. Which means that if he doesn't do the mitzvah, then all of that is wasted. The farmer in New Zealand has wasted his time because the Jew in America didn't do the mitzvah. So through the mitzvahs that every Jew does, so if every Jew would be doing all 613 mitzvahs, then all parts of the world that are represented by all Jews collectively, all those parts of the world would be elevated and fulfill its purpose in its existence. Now, 6 lines from the bottom. The chol nitzutz, and every one of these neshamas, or sparks of a neshama, detailed neshamas, did not come down to this world for any other reason, which is in fact a very great yirida, and it's literally a golus for the neshama, because even if the neshama will be a tzaddik gomer, and he will serve God with fear and with love, that is the highest level of love, called ava b'tainugim. Yet this would not equal the level of dveikus, the level of attachment that the neshama had to God, with love, with fear and love, before the neshama came down into this mundane world. So there's no comparison between the ava and yira that the neshama has above, before it comes down into the body, to the love and fear that the neshama has once it comes into the body, even if that neshama is a tzaddik gomer. So first the Rebbe uses the Hebrew when he says Eved Hashem biyira v'ava, and then later he says that will not compare to the dechilu or rechimu. Dechilu means fear, and rechimu means love in Aramaic. The ava and yira will not compare to the dechilu or rechimu that the neshama has above, before it comes into the body. And dechilu or rechimu, because it's in Aramaic, it is a lower level than ava and yira, which is in Hebrew, in Lashon HaKodesh. So that the distance, the difference between the neshama the way it is above and the way the neshama comes down below, is that even the dechilu rechimu meaning the external part of his love and fear that he has above, is much, much greater than the Ava and Yira in Lashon Kodesh that he has here below. No part of it and no similarity to it at all. And there is no similarity between them at all, no comparison between them, as is known to anyone who can understand. That haguf eine yochel isbeil, that because the neshama is in a body and the body can't tolerate too much godliness, therefore the neshama is limited in the body from feeling all that it could feel if it was not in the body. So why would this happen? Why should this nitzutz come down into this world and suffer this golus? But the reason that it comes down into this world and is clothed in the body and the animal soul, it is only for the reason of fixing the body and the animal soul. In other words, the neshama doesn't gain anything from it. For the neshama, it's a golus. The reason that it comes is because it needs to elevate the animal soul. And to separate them, the body and the animal soul, from that which is totally unholy. By being careful about the 365 averis, the prohibitions, and their branches and offshoots. And to elevate his animal soul, along with the part of this world that belongs to the animal soul, that is his portion of the world, to elevate, and to attach them and to join them to God. L'kashra means to attach, like two things are attached to each other, like tying two things together, although they remain two separate things, but they are tied together. Uliyachada means where they become one. How does he do this? By bringing down this godliness to the animal soul through the performance of the 248 positive mitzvahs. That brings Ein Sof Baruch Hu to his animal soul. Shehi hamekayim kol mitzvahs ma'asiyos, because it is the animal soul that fulfills and does these mitzvahs, as we said before, that the godly soul is too far removed, it is too high to move the body and make the body actually do the mitzvah. It is the animal soul that does it, and therefore it's the animal soul that gains the benefit from the mitzvah. So that the animal soul itself is elevated. And it says in the Eitz Chaim that the neshama itself doesn't need a tikkun, doesn't need to be fixed. And for itself, it doesn't need to come into this world, to be clothed in this world. Only it is here to bring down Ein Sof in order to fix and to correct the animal soul and the body. And as it says elsewhere in Chassidus, that it doesn't need, the neshama doesn't come down for a tikkun, the neshama doesn't need to be fixed, but it does need to be elevated. An aliyah, the neshama does gain from coming down. And when he says that the neshama doesn't need to come down into this world, it does need to come down in order to have the aliyah, but it wouldn't need to be clothed in the animal soul and in the body. It could remain distant from it, and that too would be a yirida, and through that they would have also an aliyah. So the neshama does gain something from being here, but that is not the Eibishter's purpose in sending down the neshama. The Eibishter's purpose is to fix the animal soul. And how do we justify that a neshama should come down for the purpose and for the benefit of the animal soul. So the Rebbe says that it's literally like the Golus the Shechina going into Golus. The Shechina itself goes into Golus in order to elevate the Netzutzim that fell into unholy places. In the same way, the Neshama comes down into this world, and it's a great descent and a great Golus for it in order to elevate the animal soul and the parts of the world that belong to it. In the Hayom Yom of the 26th of Adar Sheni, the Rebbe writes, and I'll read it in Hebrew because the words are so beautiful. Kol HaKodesh Ba'am Elikei Avraham, all that is holy for the people of the God of Avraham, the Yesod Beis Yisrael, and all that is fundamental, that is the foundation of the house of Israel, B'Hamodas De Yeshorim V'Chinucham, in establishing and raising up a generation of righteous children and educating them, B'Kashrus HaEichel, in the kashrus of the food, V'Atzilus Teihar Kedushas HaShabbos, and the lofty brightness of the holiness of Shabbos. All of this, Mosar V'Nosan Hashem HaNichbod V'Haneira, God gave and handed over Al Yedei Nishei Yisrael, to the Jewish women, L'Shomram U'La'avdam, to keep them and to work them. By a man, it says L'Avdam first and then L'Shomram. By a woman, it's L'Shomram first and then L'Avdam. Ha'isha Asher Temal L'Cheivosa, the woman who fulfills her obligation, U'Tu'dasa, and her purpose, B'Chai HaMishpacha, in the family life, B'Hanhogas Habayis U'V'Chinuch Al Pi HaTorah, by conducting the house and by educating the house on the basis of Torah. Aleha HaKosov Eimer, concerning this woman, the Torah says, Chachmas Nashim Bonsa Beisa, the wisdom of the woman builds her house. And what is very interesting is that Chav Vav Adar Sheni is the first full day after the birth of the Rebbe